New that you can learn about mental health, the mind and body connect, and holistic healing modalities. So it's a very risky thing to do, to start a presentation with a joke, but I'm going to tell a joke. There was once a professor who was talking to a class full of people who were trying to get over alcoholism. So he put a glass of water on his desk and he introduced a little worm into the glass of water. And the worm just came swimming out of the glass. And then he put a glass of pure alcohol in front of him and he introduced a worm in that glass. And the worm immediately disintegrated into pieces. So he picked up the glass and he held it to the classroom and he said, so, whenever we listen to anything, we can listen to exactly what we want to listen to, right? And yet, I'm here and I'm presenting on my favorite subject, the mind-body connect. Please. So that's my introduction. I work as a counseling psychologist. I'm a master practitioner in NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming. I have studied Reiki. I've done my mastership in the healing modality of Reiki. I'm a breathwork facilitator. Some of you here yesterday attended the holotropic breathwork session. That's my most recent learning. I have worked in the field of de-addiction and family dysfunction for about 11 years. I ran my own de-addiction center here in the city of Gurgaon until 2019. I have a master's in counseling psychology, and before I came into this work, I had actually studied to be a journalist and in mass communication, and I have worked in sales with advertising in both the print and the television industry. Right? So that's about me. So I'm going to first put up some very startling facts, right? And this definition, guys, when I went Googling, says that mental health is a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn and work well, contribute to their community. It's an integral component of health and well-being that underpins our individual and collective abilities to make decisions, build relationships, and shape the world we live in. So if you look at this, a lot of times I get asked this question, कि मैम साइकाइट्रिस्ट और साइकोलॉजिस्ट में क्या फ़र्क होता है और हर कोई जो साइकोलॉजिस्ट के पास जाता है क्या उसको मेंटल हेल्थ की प्रॉब्लम है क्या वो किसी डायग्नोस्टिक DSM-5 के किसी क्लस्टर में फिट होता है या नहीं क्या उसे मेडिसिन्स चाहिए या नहीं But if you look at this definition of mental health, it's all there. Just because you don't take dawai, you don't go to psychiatrist, does it mean you have healthy relationships? Does it mean you are working to your fullest potential? And that is a person that we will say he or she is mentally, and I like to include emotionally healthy. Yeah? And so the mental health conditions, if you go to define them, they will include disorders, psychosocial disabilities, and significant distress, impairment in functioning. But not necessarily are those the people who will even come for psychology, for counseling and psychological management of their disorder. Please change the slide. Yeah. This is so startling. Every year we look at these numbers, but even now when you look at them, and these are pretty latest numbers, there are 280 million people in the world suffering from depression. Okay? And it says 75% of them do not receive treatment. I wanted to put up some of these startling statistics first to see what is this looking like, what is the situation looking like. 10% of pregnant women. We're looking at people being mentally well. We're looking at people taking on challenges, being physically fit. Let us look at something like this. What is the violence in our society today? Why? Because violence is such a straight indicator. I believe that those who commit violence, they are the people who are also suffering from undiagnosed mental health and emotional health disorders. So this is again a very startling number. that 30% of women aged 15 years and older have been subjected at least once in their life to sexual violence, either from a non-partner. Okay? Yeah. So, do we agree we have a problem? We do, right? Just see some hands. We have a huge problem. Thank you so much. Yes. So what does the word holistic mean? And I wanted to look at the word holistic. Yeah. It relates to or concerned with wholes or with complete systems rather than individual parts. And holistic health is an approach to wellness that simultaneously addresses the physical, mental, emotional, social and spiritual components of health. And we'll be going into some detail into all of these. Alright, we can go. I can't read from here, sorry. The mind-body connection is an untapped source of power and healing. Yeah, go on. So, talking about the mind-body, like we talked about, let's look at the current mental health situation. Here are some experts who have worked with the mind-body connect. And the next, we looked at Dr. Wayne Dyer, we're looking at Dr. Joe Dispenza, who said the body doesn't know the difference between an experience and a thought. So you can literally change your biology, chemistry, hormones and genes simply by having an inner event. And I think some of you who came to the breathwork workshop yesterday had an inner event, okay? It's so strange, right? I don't know if there's any cardiologists here, but that's one place where I've heard like so-and-so has had a cardiac event. But imagine an inner event, which is an event which is occurring at the level of thought and emotion. Imagine it can bring about a change. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, at the age of 23, he had a horrible cycling incident. And you know at that time what he did? He sat and he healed himself. Every day he would sit and from his mind, he would direct energy at each and every vertebra. His name is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, and he wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. Literally, what does this mean? He says that when we go through trauma, thank you, sir. When we go through trauma, okay, it's as though our body is keeping a count. How many times we felt insulted? How many times we felt really angry but we could not express the anger because it was not appropriate? How many times somebody said something mean or hurtful to us? As children, how many times were we harshly disciplined? Right? Ma'am, I think we can make a copy of this available to all. Please, you don't need to take screenshots or pictures. So I'm going to read this. Dissociation is the essence of trauma. The overwhelming experience is split off and fragmented. Go back, please. Go back. Yeah. I don't think I can change from here, can I? Okay. Alright. Yeah, this is the right one, okay? And look at this, he says the organs weep the tears the eyes refuse to shed. So these are the organs of the body, like the liver is where we store anger, the heart is where we store joy which we cannot express, right? And then the spleen is where we have a lot of worry, lungs are where we store grief, and the kidneys are where we store fear. And so that's the part I was reading, where the sensory fragments of memory intrude into the present, where they are relived. As long as the trauma is not resolved, the stress hormones that the body secretes to protect itself keep circulating, and the defensive movements and emotional responses get played. So mind and body, they are very, very clever. So the first time something goes difficult in our life, okay, and we got a lot of young people here. The first time you have a heartbreak or you have a breakup, if that pain is not fully experienced, your body and mind, your psyche wants finally to accept that damage and to feel that pain or trauma before allowing it to be released. Until that happens, the experiences keep. Mind-body doctor, his name is Dr. Bruce Lipton. He wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. right? And again, it's about how the thinking, the energy of our thoughts and emotions changes what's happening in our bodies. Your perception of any given thing at any given moment can influence the brain chemistry, which in turn affects the environment where your cells reside and controls their fate. Yeah. So these are some of the big names in this field. So I'm going to ask you a question. Might be a little difficult, might be a little strange. Did the mind create the body? So I've put up this famous iceberg picture here, which first Sigmund Freud came up with, saying that only 10% of what's happening in our minds is available to us in our conscious awareness. The rest of the 90% is what we call the subconscious mind, which we are not aware of. Okay? How many people like Bhangra music here? If you can give me a... I'm looking at the students. Awesome. Okay? But if some Bhangra music started playing, how many of you would get up and start dancing? And you know why you won't start dancing? Because between the subconscious and the conscious is something called... Go to the next point. It's called the critic. We have a filter through which